So hello everyone. My name is Shubhankar. Uh, Hi Ram. It's been a
Hi,
long time.
Shubham. Yes,
It's
it
been
has
a
been.
long time since we had a chat like this actually.
Right.
So welcome to Sales Talk with HCRM.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
It's an honor to have you today. For the unversed, I would like to introduce Mr. Ram to our audience. So Ram Santosh is a sales professional with over 10 years of experience. He's worked with brands like IUS Equipments, uh, you know, Vectochem Consultants and Engineers Private Limited, Fabtech Technologies International Limited, and many, many more. He's currently working as a sales head, international markets for HVAC Technologies Private Limited. Right. So that's the basic introduction for our audience. So, Mr. Ram, before wasting any more time, I think we'll just get started, shall we?
Right. Sure. We can.
Perfect. So, Mr. Ram, my first question to you is: tell us something about your initial journey. Like, what was your educational background? Or how did you choose to, like sales as a career option? How did that come by?
Okay. So I'm a chemical engineer by academics, and I began my career as a site engineer. So throughout my total experience of about 12 years, I think the initial couple of years were spent on the site. I used to install purified water systems for pharma, WFI for pharma, and then I moved on to Vectochem, as you mentioned. I used to install uh, your tableting equipment, and I also used to manage the projects for them.
Right.
And when I was in the factory, I had this chance to interact with a lot of clients for the factory acceptance tests. And that's when something told me that, maybe these guys like you and you should give it a shot at sales. And so when it didn't happen in that company, I decided to jump into another company to try out my hand at sales. And it's been a crazy ride since then. And yeah, so I've done domestic sales and international sales. But yes, primarily it has been B2B, and I've mostly worked into the pharmaceutical segment. So yeah, so that's a little bit about me.
That's amazing. How you have gone from a different industry as chemical engineer to all the way to sales. Um, so my follow-up question is, Mr. Ram, what does sales mean to you at this point?
Okay, okay. See, sales basically means convincing somebody of an idea in your head. I mean, at the more corest form, that's what it is. So I think it's a common misconception that sales is a profession, and if you're a salesperson, you have to do this and that. In the most rudimentary form, you have an idea in your head, and you want someone to be convinced of it. For example, I mean, let's say a child is asking for ice cream. That kid is trying to sell his mom the idea that if I have this ice cream, I'm going to be very happy. So in this case, the actual salesperson of that ice cream is not the shopkeeper; it's the kid. And what he's trying to sell to his mom is the fact that there is going to be happiness in the future if you buy me this product. So he is convincing the mother that if you do this for me, I'm going to be this. And that I believe is sales. And hence I don't believe sales is a profession. Sales is there everywhere. I mean, even when we are negotiating with our parents, with our kids, with our co-workers in a shared taxi, there is sales all around us, and we are trying to sell each other the idea of convincing of something. So wherever you need convincing, you've got sales right there.
Absolutely. I agree because I think if you're into sales, it's not just the idea of buying and selling that takes place, but rather a relationship between the customers in this manner that actually
Absolutely,
influences them to actually purchase anything
absolutely,
from you. Yeah.
absolutely. So being a salesperson means the ability to convince and negotiate through any situation in life, and by that process, adding value to the community, to your company, and to your relationships. So that's what I think sales is about.
Absolutely, I agree 100% because sales is something that is vital to any organization because unless and until you're
Agreed.
selling something, you're probably
Hmm.
not making any money. Right?
Correct.
Rather it be a product or a service for
Hmm.
any matter that. So, like you said, you are now. It's been more than 10 years that you're into sales, Mr. Now.
Approximately, yes.
Approximately. So now you're at HVAX Technologies. So can
Right.
you just give us a brief, like kind of explain your role at HVAX Technologies, how you do what you do?
Okay, sure. HVAX Technologies is a 11-year-old company. I joined the company about close to 4 years ago, and so we work both in in India as well as in markets abroad. And what we primarily do is we build viable pharma infrastructure. So what that means is we build pharmaceutical factories for our clients right from scratch. So when we go initially, what you see is a piece of land and an idea that's conceived in the client's head. And when we go back there after a year and a half or 2 years, you see a full-blown pharmaceutical factory up and running. So that's what we primarily do. So I lead a team of about 5 salespeople, and we've got a support staff of around 6 more. And annually, we do around $15 million worth projects every year. So yeah, so that's what we do here at HVAX.
That is a huge number, $15 million annually. And so you build everything from a piece of land. You just look at a piece of land and you build the
Yes,
whole company for the clients.
absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah.
So we design for them. We take in a lot of their inputs. We understand what kind of regulatory demands they have in a particular country. So we've done a lot of work in Africa, like in the countries of Kenya, in Ghana, Nigeria, and even in Asia, in Nepal, Sri Lanka, Ethiopia, and I mean
Oh,
so
wow.
many more, so many more. Yeah,
So all around the world, not just
yeah,
India,
right,
basically.
right.
Right. So my second question, or the third
Mhm,
question, however it was,
mhm.
the question is, now that you've been over 10 years, so you must have seen a trend, right? And how sales used to be up about a decade ago when you joined, and how it is now. So 2011 versus
Mhm,
now 2022. Uh,
mhm,
what would you say, Mr. Ram? Have you observed, the
mhm.
changes over the years in the sales industry and how it's moving now?
Okay. So, I mean, here I see a lot of numbers and statistics, talking about the sales industry per se. Okay. So, I don't really believe that sales is an industry. I mean, the industry exists because we've got sales, right? So, like you said earlier, so a lot of people have this different department classified as ye log sales wale hai, so these are the sales people, and sales as an industry is moving at this CAGR and so on and so forth. So no, the industry moves because you've got sales, and sales is all of us. And I keep saying this within my company all the time, that so one of the primary things, to answer your question, one of the primary things that we need to change is the fact that we need to view everyone as sales, right? Right from the company driver who picks up a client from the hotel, to the way my office staff is treating when the clients come in, to how we treat our vendors, how we treat our employees. Everything is a sale point. Everything is building a brand. So
Absolutely.
I remember, so when John F. Kennedy, the American president, had so the US had sanctioned huge loads of amounts for sending a man on the moon. And after a while, John F. Kennedy said, "Let me go back and check how the mission is going." So before he could get into the main auditorium, he went to use the restroom. And so there was a janitor who was sweeping the floor. And John F. Kennedy asked him, "What are you doing?" And he said, I'm helping put a man on the moon." And that's when the president said, if the vision has percolated until that level, I'm sure these guys are going to do it. So what I'd like to sum up is, sales is not a department. Sales is not an industry. Sales is all of us. And the quicker we understand this fact as to how everyone is contributing to the sale, like right from the Zomato guy who comes and delivers, he is contributing to the next sale, right? So we
Absolutely.
can't classify sales as an industry. While yes, there are pundits who can give you numbers at how fast sales is growing as an industry, how far how much are sales guys getting paid and all that. I'd like to really transform the idea that sales is all of us.
Absolutely. So I was thinking, like 2011, right?
Mhm.
That's when I don't think it was digital.
It wasn't. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
that is
So
one major shift. Like if you ask me what has changed, it is the hybrid, because
hybrid.
we
Yes.
we are in a B2B relationship, and here I don't think only digital would work. You need a mix of both.
Mhm.
So because you be away from the client for too long, and see, so there are visual, there are auditory, and there are kinesthetic ways to learn from each other. Visual is when you see, that you can see on Zoom. Auditory is when you speak to somebody over the phone, and that can happen over a phone call. So the minute things shifted from auditory to visual, the impact was crazy, right? And so they could actually see how your expressions move and
Actually,
how your face moves and this and that. So that adds on. But what kinesthetic adds is when you touch somebody, you say, "I'll take care of you. I'm here around you," and nothing can beat that value. So and when we're talking about deals, especially for our industry, for my segment, we are not talking, 5 lakhs and 10 lakhs. Had that been the case, it could have been done even digitally. But here, so we're talking about millions.
millions.
So it's about 2 million, 2.5 million, 4 million, 4.5 million. And when those things happen, not getting to travel was a big, big, big hurdle. And so now that things are kind of normalized, it's really helping. But yes, the pandemic has altered the way we do business. Zoom calls are a daily part of life. What used to be an introductory email is now an introductory Zoom call.
Zoom call.
So, so initially when I signed up with Edge CRM, so they said, let us give you an online demo. And that's when I told Pooja, you know what, you come down to the office. And that's when she came with everyone. She came with Ravindra, she came with Pragnesh. And I think, so that's the only meeting that we've had. And because that's the only meeting we had, things got moved so fast. Had it
Faster.
been online demo, we would have taken a while, and
Mhm.
I would have tried more options, and you don't know where it would have gone, right?
Absolutely. Because like that is one of the things, right? First, back in 2011, when things were not so digital,
Hmm.
people did not know about a plethora of options they had, right?
Correct.
So the first thing they could put their hands on was generally the sale they did or the sale they
Mm.
had.
Yeah.
Like, let's say for HCRM, like for your example, so you met
Mm.
HCRM, that was a good, you felt it was a
Yeah.
good application to get, and you got it.
Correct.
Now, like you said, everything is digital on the, a click of a button. Just
Hmm.
go on Google, search for a CRM or any other application that you want to search, and you'll get
Right.
10,000 results in a single page. So the businesses are moving digitally,
Hmm.
and the businesses are still wanting to keep their presence physically.
Absolutely.
So that's, I
Absolutely.
think, one of the reasons the pandemic has changed. Some
Correct.
prefer still, people still prefer either working from home and just doing a Zoom call. Some
Yeah.
people still prefer physical.
I'll tell you what. So when the after the pandemic kind of waned off, we had this exhibition in Delhi,
Mhm.
and everybody was kind of skeptical about investing in that expo. And so we said, let's do it anyway because we miss people. Our people want to see us. Let's do it well. And the number of people who turned up there solely because they missed the idea of a gathering. Because we as human beings, we are social beings. We need the
Social.
society. We need a community to, feel good. Being at home isolates us of a lot of other immense benefits that we can't even, imagine about.
Absolutely.
So the expos, the physical meetings, I mean, they are back and how.
Like right now, we can actually see the difference. Like back in 2019, when we used to go to expos, there used to be
Hmm.
people, right? There used to not be
Yeah.
a sea of people. Like you couldn't see the
Hmm.
end.
Hmm.
But now, after the pandemic, we can actually see a change where people are
Right.
just, dying to get out of their houses and then go
Exactly.
and meet people, have
Exactly.
meetings, and so that has
True. True. True.
changed over the past 2 years.
Absolutely.
Perfectly has
Absolutely.
affected sales and everything.
Yes.
Um, so coming like sales, so sales means building good relations, right? Coming
Hmm.
from that topic, you have to build
Yeah.
relations if you ever want to do a nice, big, hefty sale. You have to maintain some good relations with your clients. So, would you like to, sir, give us any kind of tips, on to our audience on how do you maintain, Mr. Ram, how do you maintain good relations with your clients so that you can make those $15 million
Okay.
annually?
See, I'll tell you what. I'm not a firm believer when it comes to tips. All right. So tips are like prescriptions of what has worked for me.
Hmm.
Okay. And what has worked for me may not work for you. And when you give out people tips, it's like me going up to Virat Kohli and telling him, "Arey, thoda batting ka tips dena karke." And he might even give it to me. But I'm dead sure, considering my training for cricket, it's not going to affect me in any way. So it's the same when you ask, somebody for a stock tip. "Arey, kya kharid raha hai tu?" I mean, at least can you tell me to, a couple of penny tips that you've got? And I am sure that will not work for me. So the way I want to look at it is building good relationships is a system. Okay, it's a system of you doing a lot of things right, and like I said before, the whole company needs to be around the customer, and we need to put the customer in the center. and all of us need to be around. That's when you kind of build a good relationship at every level with the customer. But still, I mean, if you have to hear out a tip from me, um, rule number one, I think you always need to pick up the phone, no matter what. Whether you have made a mistake, you've got a small screw up, pick up the phone, face it right there, apologize, and you tell them, I'm sorry, I couldn't do this today. I'm going to do it by tomorrow. So that's one. And so, which is rule number two, is honor your promises. If you say something, do it. And if you're not going to be able to do it, go back and change your promise. So so this is where a lot of people kind of fail, and this is where relationships go bad. Like, if you couldn't do it, you should have told me, right? And everything is negotiable. People always help you, even they are humans. Your clients aren't robots, and they want to help you out as well. So if you go out and tell them, look, I have this problem, and I had told you that I'm going to do it by now, I will be doing it by tomorrow. Is that okay? And I'm sure they're going to tell you it's all right, right? So yeah, so primarily this. So I mean, building good relationships has to be genuine. You can't fake building a good relationship. As much as I try to be extremely nice to you, hey Shubhankar, it was a pleasure meeting you, and this and that. At some level, you would see through me with your experience, of course. And so using these tips are what new salespeople try to build a relationship. So it was a pleasure meeting you, and all that jazz, and you realize that, oh, this is not how it's done. And you want things to be genuine, and do not follow tips. Work out systems for yourself, and that will be the best way.
Yes, because not every client is the same, not every salesperson is the same.
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Things work different for everybody. Some people are, I
Yes,
think, a little more aggressive in how they market their product. Some people are a
yes,
little more, calm, and they possess it very gently. And
exactly, exactly. Now, so if you see a lot of these online sales training and all that, so they would want you to be this aggressive, energetic, and this and that. And I've got a couple of introverts on my team, and they are
absolutely,
phenomenal. All right, they are phenomenal. So with their calm, they build relationships like nobody's business. And yeah, so there are no, I mean, again, prescriptions to how a salesperson must be.
absolutely.
I mean, no matter how you are, you can design and build a system around how you can build good relationships, and that thing is supremely personal. Of course, you can take cues from how other people do it. Observe your people you observe the people you adore, and look how they do it, and then
Absolutely.
emulate a little bit. But in the end, build your own style.
Because I was about to come to the point that, like you said, you have some introverts in your team, right?
Mhm.
So not necessarily every person who's running a business has to be an extrovert,
Not
right?
at all.
They can
Not
be
at
an
all.
introverted person, and if a salesperson, let's say, is too aggressive to product,
Mhm.
sorry, too aggressive to pitch them the product,
Mhm.
and it comes off as a little too aggressive for the client.
Yeah.
If the customer is an introvert, you might just back off of it, saying, okay, this is getting
Yes.
a little too much. Rather, we go, take it
I
a little
agree. I
slow.
agree. I
Because some
agree.
people, like extroverts, build it quickly.
Right.
Introverts take their time, but they build a long-lasting relationship. Is what
Right.
we've generally seen over time.
Right.
So I think it's a game of how you can understand what the customer wants, how you should pitch it to him, and like we said, maintain relations. इनके साथ relationship अलग होगा, इनके साथ अलग होगा,
Exactly.
इनके साथ
Exactly.
अलग होगा.
So I've got this analogy. I don't know if you've seen this movie in Hindi called Aparichit. Okay.
Yes,
You
absolutely.
have, right? So it's got three primary roles that the actor plays. One is Ambi. Ambi is a very nice guy, all
Very
right.
nice guy.
Then you've got the super charismatic guy. His name is Remo, and
Yes.
Remo is, I mean, you'll fall in love with him. And the last one is, of course, Aparichit, and Aparichit is crazy. He'll get the deal done, right? Hook or by crook. So
Anyway,
I keep telling my sales guys, you need to have all three in you,
in
all right, and you have to have the ability to switch depending upon the circumstance. And when that happens, I mean, building relationships will happen as a byproduct. Sales will happen as a byproduct. And
actually,
all you have to
yes.
focus on is what is the customer, or what is a client, or what kind of an individual can I be to this person right now.
Hmm.
And if you can be that person, things are happening.
Exactly. So if I know, but if you put in the most simplest words, like let's take the example of Virat Kohli, right?
Hmm.
Now we all know as Indians that Virat Kohli is an aggressive batsman,
Yeah, yeah.
right? But but you see a shape shift in him when he's playing a T20 versus when he's playing an ODI versus a Test cricket.
Of course, of
So when
course.
you're playing Test, you can't just come out there and start hitting.
Yeah, yes,
So there's a
yes,
different tactic to every sale. The same way,
absolutely,
it's a different tactic to every game that you play. And
absolutely.
sales
I
is a
agree,
game anyway, right?
agree, agree, agree.
Okay, coming to my next big point.
Hmm.
Even Virat Kohli or
Hmm.
the greatest batsman in this world or any
Hmm.
sport fail sometimes.
Hmm.
They get out at zero. They get out without making a big impact. And sales is also something like that. Failure
Yeah,
is a big part of sales. Not every client will get converted.
correct.
Correct. So how do you handle disappointment? Because as a salesperson, let's say if I'm talking to someone and I realize, oh, this is not going to happen. And
Hmm.
sometimes after a while you start feeling bad. Actually, what exactly am I doing wrong? So how do you handle it, Mr.
Right. So, and what you said is absolutely true. And I have the strong belief that every client should not be converted because um, so there is a saying that yesterday's excellence is tomorrow's benchmark. Okay.
Wow.
And every time so it's like nobody knew that you could run a mile in less than 10 seconds until somebody did it, and then there were 10 people who did it, right? So it's only a matter of time. Somebody is going to do it at 8 seconds, and then you'll have other 10 people who are trying to do it at 8 seconds, because you tweak your system, you tweak your training, you tweak, and you are able to get it down to that level. So likewise in sales, if you never lose a client, it's like you've never been knocked out. The hype around you in the next match is just going to be higher, and the stakes are higher. You're sent into a larger ticket size, and for you to be able to deal with that kind of a pressure, you must have handled failures earlier,
Absolutely.
right? So failures are very, very, very important, honestly, because what happens is when you are successful, when things are working in your favor, it builds complacency. And when failures happen, that is a time when you actually sit down and reflect. You draw out the path, what exactly went wrong. And of course, it's not a point where you want to beat yourself to, as if, ye sab kuch mere wajah se hua hai, I was the guy. That's not the point. The
Actually,
point is to see, because most of the times it could be or it could not be your mistake. I mean,
hmm,
I see a lot of salespeople beating themselves down after losing a deal, and sometimes it's not you being not good, it's just that somebody else was better, or they had a prior relationship, or so there were some things happening in the environment that was more conducive to that company.
absolutely.
So but yes, it is a path, it is a time to sit down, reflect, map out what went wrong, map out, did you attend to the influencer, did you speak to the buyer, did you speak to the user, and so on and so forth. So if that's happening, I think you will have more successes. So it's I mean, to give you a very, very simple metaphor, success is your accelerator and failure is your brake, and you need both. As simple as that.
You can't just keep.
Yeah, you can't just keep accelerating, right? Because
You'll go.
you're not in a video game. You are in a
Actually,
real world. And in real world, you've got other cars, unforeseen circumstances. Not everything is going to go as per your plans. So when we set our targets, we just have dream targets, and then we assume that it's going to be linear. It's never linear. It's
never. It's
always going to be
always.
a curve, and in fact, it's easier that way, and
Hmm.
it keeps you grounded. It's better. You can celebrate your wins better, because if you're winning every day, it's
Becomes
just another day, right?
monotonous.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
becomes monotonous. And I wouldn't want a
because
life like that.
because I think as a good salesperson, one of the first time if you're just getting started in sales,
Hmm.
a lot of guys will be very enthusiastic and very motivated. I'll do this,
Yeah.
I do that, I close clients, and when they can't, so the
Mm-hmm.
reality hits automatically
Oh.
because like you can't really close every client that you lay your hands on.
Mm.
So I think a good salesperson would rather just sit down and analyze actually what wrong did I do in this meeting or what exactly should I have done
Correct.
that maybe could have closed the
Correct.
deal, and then you
Correct.
probably don't do those things again.
Perfect.
Right?
See,
So
I'll tell you two things over here. Number one, I'll talk about all these superhero movies, all right. You name it. Every superhero movie has got a basic empirical formula. Okay. They've got this very naive guy who you don't think can be hero. Okay. And then but like suddenly he realizes that he's gifted. He meets a mentor. He's gifted now, and the mentor tells him, "Ki boss, you are this," So in case of Spider-Man, of course, the spider biting him was a thing that happened. In case of your Kung Fu Panda, it was Shifu who told him that, dude, you can do things. And they don't believe in themselves. They are made to believe in themselves. They do believe in themselves, and then they have a fall, and then they rise. And when they rise,
Absolutely.
they rise and how, right? So with every superhero movie, there is this empirical formula. If you want to Google this, it's called the hero's journey. All right,
Okay.
and it talks about exactly what we are talking about, and it only because of that it makes the movie exciting. It makes you
Exactly.
connect with this guy, and so a lot of people know that all these failure moments are a must. But when it happens to them, it's just that they're like, why is this happening with me?
Yeah.
Number two, you see all these achievers who are exceptionally good at academics, and when they come out in the real world, so they realize nobody's talking about my marks anymore,
Mm.
and they have I have these freshers who come, and they feel that because they've done well in engineering, they can do well at an
In
engineering
sales.
job, and this is a completely different world. And they're like, what have I been doing all these years?
Yeah.
And when that first bout of depression hits them, that is when every newbie or every new salesperson would need a very good mentor who c-
Absolutely.
who can tell them that, boss, look, this is normal. I have failed as well, and it's a part of the process. I'm glad you're going through this.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
I
so, so,
100% agree.
and as long as that is happening, I'm sure we'll all do fine. But so not a lot of people acknowledge the need for you to mentor somebody, or somebody to mentor you. I mean, it's really missing in our industry. And while we do have these expos and conferences, we don't have that kind of professional relationships where you go out of the way and you mentor, like 5-10 people who just got started out in your industry, or in any industry for that matter. So yeah, but then that should happen, and that's the point of having interviews like these, and having videos like these for youngsters to watch and learn.
Absolutely. Because Mr. Ram, I'm pretty sure you'll agree that now that you're a mentor, right? Even you must have had a mentor. Even I have a mentor. It's very necessary for a salesperson or someone who's just starting out the job to have a really nice mentor. Because let's say if a mentor is not, let's say suitable to how
Mhm.
you want to work, it can
Okay.
create a negative impact.
Okay,
Sometimes, not every time,
I want to add to
sometimes.
this. Go on. Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah. So what happens is, let's say there's a person who's not suitable to be a mentor, but people look at him like they have a lot of views as well,
Understood. Yeah.
right? And if he now has a people in sales or marketing or whatever it is, and if he is very negative in his comments, like let's say
Hmm.
you like just a deal got out of your hand, and when that negative depression, like you said, it hits, and there's no good mentor to actually tell you it's okay, it
Mm-hmm.
happens. Let's focus on the next one. Then you can lose all motivation, right?
I agree.
Sometimes.
I agree. Hmm.
So that is one of the points that you need motivation, you need a good mentor so that you can
Hmm.
move ahead in life.
Right.
You were going to add something to it.
Yes. So I was going to say, see, and also at times, a good mentor and a bad mentor are the same person. All right. So
Yeah.
until now, until he said that, so I was told by one of the mentors I still love and adore. One day he told me that you don't have an aptitude for sales, and I said, what? And he said, you're not built for sales. And I didn't speak to anybody for about a week, because it really hit me, and I gave that a lot of importance. And I was really wondering if that's true, because when a senior tells you that, bhai tu batting mat kar abhi se, you are a bowler. and, and but at the same time, so I can't call that mentor or negative mentor at all, because he said that, probably he said it to ignite what was going down in me, and he wanted to see the fire again, and it was just a nudge from him that up karke dikha chal, and boy, that did give me a nudge, that did put me on fire, and I'm so glad he said that. So while you look back at certain events and say that, hey, that was the most negative thing that happened, no. So I know what you say, what do you mean when you say that, so there are people who are not great mentors, and they've still got a lot of people working under them. So again, so there is this compartmentalized idea of a mentor who's supposed to be this motivational speaker, and he'll say nice things to you every morning. He's like, come on guys, that's not what a mentor is. So a mentor is somebody who helps you to progress in your path
Mhm.
and gives you course correction every now and then. It could be in any way possible. And so, I mean, I'm sorry, I'm using a lot of pop culture references like Aparijit
Fine.
and Spider-Man, and because most of my young audience is going to be,
Absolutely.
so they would be watching all this.
Mhm.
So, just give me a second. Just give me a second.
No problem.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I just got something on my screen, and I totally lost track. So distractions are a major thing, man. I mean, so with things being digital, so distractions are a major scene. So, anyways, so let's come back to us. Talking about negative mentors. I don't think there are any negative and positive mentors, and it's not like if you have a mentor, that is the only guy that you want to stick to the for the rest of your life. No. So you can have multiple mentors for different things, and no human being is amazing at everything, right? So if you've seen the movie Whiplash, I'm not sure if you've actually seen the movie. So Whiplash is about a drummer, okay, and so this drummer professor, so he's a music professor, and he's super duper harsh. He abuses his. I mean, I'm not saying that's the way to go. It's a very bad method of doing it. And yes, also in our industry, so there are a lot of bosses who are super aggressive, and they just want the best out of you, and probably that's the only method that they know about. Okay.
You
So in the movie Whiplash, towards the end of the movie, so the kid wants to take revenge on his professor, and the professor wants revenge on the kid. But eventually, the last music piece that he plays in revenge is one of the most masterpieces that he comes up with. And that's when, in that moment, they show that the student and the professor are appreciating each other, and that's beautiful. And in the movie, so the music professor says Beethoven became Beethoven because somebody hit him, saying that you can't do music, you can't do music, boss. And that's when he said, "Let me show you how."
Great stuff.
So there aren't a typical kind of a mentor. Maybe you don't know there is a mentor, and you're not able to identify them just
Mhm.
because in your head you've got this perfect idea कि नहीं मेरा mentor ऐसा होना चाहिए. That's not true. So I've looking back, I realized there have been so many aggressive, non-aggressive, soft-spoken, harsh-spoken. I've had a lot of mentors. Probably they don't even know that they were my mentors, and I have taken it that way, and it has helped immensely. So I think you were also asking me about motivation, right? So motivation isn't something that you do once in a while. So Jim Rohn, uh, one of the world's most loved motivational speakers, has this dialogue. He says, "Motivation is like bathing; you have to do it every day."
Great.
So you can't just be motivated one day and then after 2 weeks it just dies down and you're like, what do I do now? I need somebody to come and give me another motivation injection, right? That's not how it works. Motivation is something that you do for yourself on a
Yourself.
daily basis. And as long as you can do that, what do you use to motivate yourself? For different people, it could be different things. For me, it is the idea of who I'm going to be. And I have this idea in my head. By this time, I should be doing this, and this is how my team must be reciprocating. This is the kind of tribe that I want to build, and so on.
Mhm.
And I see that it's not happening at the pace at which I want it. And I was like, Ram, buck up. And that is my motivation to myself. So, yeah.
That is an amazing idea. Of course. Sometimes even I feel like I'm losing a lot of motivation after I
Hmm.
go about, not having clients come to me.
Correct.
So
Hmm.
even I'm trying to think of things. I'll just be frank. I still haven't
Sure.
found the right motivation that would
Hmm.
push me to do more. So sometimes when I just feel a little lazy,
Hmm.
that's the thing about me that I just sometimes just give up, which
Hmm.
is not a good thing. So I'm trying to find what motivates me, what excites me, so that I can push myself harder every day
I'm
to
sure
get that
all of
one thing.
yeah, I'm sure all of us been through what you're talking about, 100%. And so there are two things. I mean, so there are two ways motivation works. One is intrinsic, and one is the external.
Actions.
So your clients, your relationships of how your girlfriend is treating you, how your wife is treating you, how your kid is treating you, all that is feedback. Okay. And while you can look at them as motivation as to how your bosses are treating you, how your what kind of orders you're getting, those can be motivations. But if you look closely, if you look deeply, they are not actually motivation. Those are things that are happening to you, and probably you're thinking it's because of me, but the real thing, the real way to motivate has to come from inside, and it has to be linked to personal goals of yours as to how better of a speaker am I being, how well am I delivering a presentation, or how well did I close this, or how good a relationship do I have with this client. Even if I'm not working with the client, is he still calling me out for a beer? Is he still calling me out for a coffee? Those are small things which I think should be included in your metrics of you being successful, and that will automatically motivate you.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for this advice. I'll make sure I write this down, somewhere. Might just help me. Yeah. Like incentives is a motivation.
Yes, 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 yes,
Like that is a parameter that will push most people to
yes.
do a little better. Right. So that brings me on to the next part.
Mhm.
I just would like to ask you if there is any professional experience that you
Mhm.
would like to share with our audience. Any professional experience over your career.
You by now you've already known that I talk a lot, all right?
That's
And
amazing.
so I mean, we could do this into a series of different podcasts about each experience and what I learned from it.
I'm
But
sure I'd love that.
because see, over the last 8 years, so like you said, with Faptech and with HVAX, I mean, it's been a dream. I've traveled to more than 22 countries and have hands-on got to learn about the local cultures, eaten their local food. So that's been one thing about me. I've tried their local beverages. I've tried the local food. I try to pick up on a couple of words in their local language, and that helps me understand those people there well. I read their newspapers just to draw different kind of parallels as to. So when I went to Nigeria or when I go to Africa, I see the newspapers and it looks like India's 1995-96 kind of newspapers. The
Oh.
way the headlines are written, so the way the advertisements are. So if you had these old hand painted billboards in Bombay a
Mhm.
long time ago, right? Those are the kind of things that are still in vogue over there. So you realize that time is traveling differently in different places in different
Yeah.
countries, and then when you get to travel to a place like New York or to I mean to London, Germany, you see how far they are in terms of technology and how we are yet to adopt it. And because this is going to happen, what can you do about it, is the question. So I mean, as far as experiences are concerned, cultural experiences are the best because they stick with you. Then you've got experiences of how you closed the deal, how it was a lost deal and how you closed it. And then there are experiences about how you won a deal and then somebody else took it away from you. So there is so much to talk about, as far as an experience is concerned. And I mean, I'm sure you will be giving my LinkedIn a tag, and anybody who wants to reach out to me can reach
Yeah.
out to me, and I'll be glad to help as far as my experiences are concerned. So yeah.
Absolutely. And just one question, Mr. Ram, regarding the same topic. It's a personal question, actually. I'd like
Sure.
to ask you.
Hmm.
Do you think sales as an industry will probably give you the most exposure and the most experience?
Hmm.
Because you go out in the field, because you're meeting people so regularly, you're talking to so many people, you're
Hmm.
understanding the requirements, how businesses work, where they spend,
Right.
what they do, etc., etc., etc. Compared
Uh,
to other fields,
mhm.
would you say?
Well, yes, in some ways, but then it also depends upon what stage of the career you are in. Okay.
Mhm.
I see a lot of youngsters who want to come out and want to be a part of sales because it is glamorous. You get to wear suits, you get to wear a tie, you get to go to expos and all that, right? So for me, the early years of me being a site engineer, I traveled a lot, all right, but it was all domestic, but I still enjoyed it. I went to places that I wouldn't normally go, like Dahej, Bharuch, you know,
Mhm.
Panoli, Bomsandra it's a place in Bangalore, Hosur, all these places which I wouldn't have normally been to. And I was there, I stayed there for many days. I learned about the local cultures, ate the local food, and so on and so forth. And the amount of technical learning that I was going through in those days was phenomenal. I wish I can have that level of absorption power in terms of what I was learning on a day to basis. Today, if I have to do that, I have to take a couple of days off and sit with myself to learn that much.
Mhm.
Back in the days, it was part of, it was on the job training, and all I had to do was learn, right?
Absolutely.
So I feel the exposure that you're talking about, I've got people in my operations team who've traveled to as many countries as I have, and they have met as many people as I have. So it does not necessarily mean that you have to be a salesperson, and sales is the only way that you can get a lot of exposure. So exposure is again, I mean, people try to classify words and definitions so much
Mhm.
that they lose the essence of it. So when I had completed my chemical engineering, I was at one of my uh, relatives' functions, and there was his uncle, and he said, "Are you done with your engineering?" So I said yes, and he said, "Which company?" Now TCS, Infosys. I said, "No, uncle, I am a chemical engineer." He's like, "Why did you take up chemical engineering?" He's like, "It's finished, so there is nothing in there." So now this is a sweeping generalization,
Mhm.
and I was irked, like, and how I hadn't even started working, and he was holding his beverage in his hand. He was having a
Mhm.
beer, and I said, "Boss, this beer is. Who do you think works in this beer plant, or who made the plant for you?" It was by a chemical engineer,
Chemicals.
and he just winked at me. He said, "Good job." And so the point that I'm trying to make out here is exposure. अरे ये नहीं चलता है आजकल वो चलता है.
Mhm.
All that I don't think a lot of youngsters should buy into it. I see a lot of my colleagues doing an IT course, a coding course on the sides, and just because so they've got an initial better pay, they are jumping over into a different industry. I mean, not even trying to find out if that is what they like doing. So one of the things with me is I absolutely love what I do, and while had I been in IT, had I been in a different industry, maybe I would be paid a little better. Maybe I don't know because I can't measure myself onto something that I haven't been a part of. But I absolutely love what I do, and as long as that is there, I think it's all right.
That's, thank you so much. That's an amazing way to look at things. I love the way you have it. A very strong perspective of
Mhm.
what you hold here. And to follow up to that question, no matter if you're an engineer or a chemical IT or whatever field you
Mhm.
choose,
Mhm.
right,
Mhm.
you'll generally succeed if you have the passion for it, you have the love for it.
Right.
But sometimes even people just think that if I acquire this skill,
Mm.
like let's say for your example, you are a chemical engineer, now you're into sales. So a lot of people shifted because they
Correct.
eventually find what they love. It's not necessarily
Correct.
just land up there.
Correct. Correct. Correct.
So there are some necessary skills, I would say. Just to some people it comes naturally, but some
Agree.
people we have some
Mhm.
to acquire some skills.
Correct.
Uh,
Correct.
Being from the sales background myself, I'll just ask you about the sales. Let's say, what do
Mhm.
you think, Mr. Ram? What do you think are the necessary skills
Mhm.
which is required to to make it big in the sales industry today?
Got it. Got it. Got it. Okay, I'll answer that question. But before we move there, you use the word passion, all right. Passion is the most overused, abused word on the internet right now. You got to be passionate, you got to be this. Yeah, all of us are figuring out our lives. You need to have a vision. I don't know where I'm going, boss. Right. And a lot of people who say that they do, they don't know where they're going. So all these are unnecessarily, point jargons that kind of you just sit down and wonder, oh shit, what is my passion, bro? Or what is my vision? What is my mission? And this and that. And so instead of, and it's an oversold concept. Not a lot of people know what to be passionate about. Okay, I had one job. It's not like I tried 10 industries and now I know this is what is for me. Aisa nahi hai. And it's not like you have 10 girlfriends and then you say now I am only passionate about this one. That doesn't
Absolutely.
it doesn't happen that way, right? So whatever you have on hand, try and be curiously interested in what you have. Try to forget about you being passionate or what. Try to fall in love with what you're doing. I mean, primarily. So and if it doesn't work out for you, change it to something else. Of course, a lot of people in the pretext of demonstrating their so-called passion are burning
Mhm.
themselves out. No, sales is my passion, and no matter what, I'm not going to quit this. Or starting up is my passion is the most heard thing nowadays. How can starting up be a passion here? Matlab, yes, doing business or wanting to help people could be a passionate thing, or you want to do that. But starting up is my passion. I am a micropreneur, intrapreneur, sociopreneur. All these are jargons that are unnecessarily used in many ways by a lot of larger people, and in turn, these small guys or people who are just starting out, they adopt these terminologies and they make
Terminologies,
things
yes.
worse for themselves. So that's about the word passion. All right. Um, about skills, about what kind of skills you asked should salesperson have. Like I said, I think the first and foremost thing, you have to be genuinely curious about everything and everyone. It pays off heavy dividends in the long run. Initially you might think, yeah, kya matlab hua? I was so interested in this client and I didn't get this order. That's not how it works. So whenever you go to meet a client, you must research on them, you must know who they are, how they got there, and try and be genuinely curious about if they are going to buy a machine from you, how are they going to use it, why are they wanting to buy it, what are they going to make into it. These are many questions that should come into your head. You should inculcate these questions as part of your conversation. And if that is happening, even the customer will give you, he will give out these answers, he or she will give out these answers to you, knowing that you are somebody who's curious, you want to know. And when that happens, you've got insights, you've got depths of understanding of what is it that exactly is this guy's need or is this lady's problem. And you can actually capitalize on it. So first and foremost, you have to be curious. Now again, it's a very vague word. How do I be curious here, is a thing that you may ask me. Okay, how do I build a skill set around being curious?
Yeah, you can inculcate that, right?
Exactly. So being curious is wanting to know what's happening in the market. I mean, primarily you'll have to read a lot about your industry, about what's happening, about the likes and dislikes of other people. Like, I cannot afford not to know about certain cartoons because my clients' kids watch them. And I give them some dialogues from that cartoon, and they're like, "Damn, you know about this?" And I'm like, "I have a 4-year-old at home, you know." So you don't know what will help you connect, and you have to be
Okay.
curious about everything. Like, you've got a football match happening, you have to have a little bit of understanding of
Yes.
what the scores are like, who's topping the charts, what happened in tennis. And now I realize, so when I was a kid, I used to wonder, why are these people always reading this newspaper and all that, right? Why
Mm.
are they consuming so much news? What are they going to do with it? Then I realized how much this is important for them to converse, to connect with another human being, to
Actually,
show them that I'm a part of your tribe, I'm a part of your community, I think like you. Oh, you also like Roger Federer? I like him too.
me too.
And what I like about him is this. And then you end up discussing about Roger Federer for the next
Exactly.
20 minutes. So that is what I mean when I say be curious about everything and everyone, and that will pay dividends in the long run. Uh, Another thing that I would like to say is, as much as you would want to say language skills aren't important, soft skills aren't important, they are. You know, as much as people would say English बोल के ये हो जाएगा क्या वो हो जाएगा.
Mm.
It's not only about English. Whatever language you're communicating in, learn to communicate that properly. If you're going to China, learn to communicate Chinese properly. If you're going to France, learn to communicate French properly. Because there you can't go and say that I can talk Hindi very well. And it doesn't matter. So if you are in the international business scene, you have to put an effort to develop your soft skills. But more importantly, what is not told enough especially to salespeople, is to develop the technical skills. Okay. Now, not a lot of salespeople, the most commonly used phrase in sales is "Let me get back to you." Okay. And the moment you use that "Let me get back to you," nobody's going to get back to you, nor are you going to get back, nor is the client going to get
As the
back at
client.
you. Okay. So why we say we'll get back to you is because of a lack of understanding. And the salesperson feels that it is not my job to know all these technical stuff. We've got a team, we've got a tech team that takes care of it. My job is only to build a relationship. That is not true. So if you really, if you see the CEOs of the world, they always and always came from some kind of a tech background, especially for a tech company, of course. And it is the tech that grew them initially in their careers, and then they acquired those CEO skills.
Yep.
So if you don't have the hardcore tech skills, only soft skills is not going to help you. So
Yes.
while both are necessary, both have to move.
Simultaneously.
Together, absolutely, and you cannot ignore either one of them. So to again crisply make it into 3 points, you have to be genuinely curious about everything and everyone. Soft skills, tech skills, and a major part of soft skills is the fact that you have to learn to communicate assertively to the point. A lot of people will keep going around circles using a lot of words and
Beating around the
jargons and
bush.
vocabulary, and keep things simple, communicate assertively, don't add a lot of emotion to what you're trying to communicate, and things will be fine.
Actually, yeah, that helps a lot because like you can't just build relationships the same way with everyone, right? So
Yeah.
some people will like it direct. Some
Hmm,
people like
hmm,
just talking around the bush.
hmm,
So that's the way, like you said, a lot of people were consuming a lot of knowledge, reading
hmm,
newspapers, and
hmm,
like my dad, he just keep
hmm.
reading the In Shorts app if you heard about it.
Oh yeah, of course,
Yeah,
of
where
course.
you can just keep flipping through and you'll get a lot of information. And
Correct, correct,
I
correct.
used to wonder when I was a kid as to why my dad is reading this
Hmm,
bunch of news. Is because now I understand they were keeping up with the trends that way. Back then they did not have an iPhone or an Android. Just press button, Google, read the Google News, and then we'll go on. Right? The only way you could keep up with the trends was either
correct.
the TV or a newspaper or the radio. But most people wouldn't, I think, carry a radio in the Mumbai local, as we know.
True, true,
Uh,
true.
so coming on to that topic, like the way people used to help themselves with the trends.
Hmm.
Um, Mr. Ram, how do you keep up with the trends of today?
Okay. See, you spoke about news shorts, right? I mean, if you read Yuval Noah Harari's book, and he's written three phenomenal books. First of them being *Sapiens*. He says the primary reason why communities were built communities were built around gossip. Okay. When I say gossip, it's not about unnecessary gossip. It's about where you have the trees and where you have the animals and where you have this and where you have that. So it's impossible for one person to be everywhere.
Mm.
So whatever they've seen on that particular day, so they used to come back in the evening, regroup, and talk about it, around the fire, and that started being a very important part in their lives. So why did our dads watch so much TV, or why did a lot of them watch so much sports without be ever having played a ball in their lives, right?
Yeah.
Why they did it is because of them going back to the fire in the night, speaking with their local people about. Even I saw, that six wasn't necessary. It was a brash shot, and so on
Mm.
and so forth. You don't want to be the person who's not seen this at all. So when the whole world was watching Dek by Dek, you don't want to be the person, or when all the ladies were watching Kyuki Saas Bhi Kabhi Bahu Thi, you don't want to be that lady who has got no idea about who these ladies are or who Smriti Irani is. And for that you want to go back and understand, and that's been the point of human evolution. So wanting to be a part of your local community is why we watch things, is why we read things, is why we are involved in things. And so coming back to your question about how do I keep myself updated in terms of trends, primarily I read. Okay. And read. It's not said enough. And the good thing now is, when I say read, it's have a lot of data points to information. Okay. So earlier reading used to happen only by books. While that is still the best method, you've got information of books that comes in through YouTube videos. There are a lot of people who are phenomenal at summarizing a lot of books. So the way I do it is I read a couple of book summaries by two or three different channels on YouTube. I will then go and watch one TED talk of the author, you know, and that gives me at least about 60 to 70% of what is there in the book. Then, if I still find the book interesting, I go out and buy the book and read it. That's my normal methodology, and I do this with most of my non-fictional reading stuff. And as far as my tech reading is concerned, and which is a very very ignored part, I've started doing it last couple of years, and boy, it has helped me a lot. I can't give you the depths of how much it has helped me. And also reading up different cultures, reading about uh, geopolitics, about what's happening, why. Like, you can't tell me that you don't know why there is a war happening in Ukraine. I don't know why it is happening. You can't.
You
I
can't
mean,
be like that.
being in international business, if you are a person that says I'm not interested in politics, I'm not interested in sport, I'm not interested in that. I'm not saying be interested in everything, but choose a few things that you have to be interested in, and that will again pay you dividends in the long run. So skill building is the only insurance that you have. If you stop building your skill, you die, and you won't even realize that you're dead. So that's the kind of fast-paced industry that we are in right now. And lastly, yes, have mentors, have mentees as well, because mentors will tell you what worked in the past. They'll give you old school methods to tackle a new age problem. If this was back in the 90s, this is what I would have done. I would have gone out to that customer, I would have sat with him, I would have told him, put my hand around his neck, taken him out for a drink. Even if I've lost the deal, it's fine, but this is what I would have done, is what a senior mentor will tell you. And you wonder, oh, I think I must do that. And irrespective of whether you get the deal or not, let me take him out for lunch, or let me take him out for dinner, or her out for dinner, whatever. So, so yeah, and yes, the easiest way to learn is for you to teach, and for that you should have mentees. So, because when you learn from the perspective of trying to teach somebody, your learning absorption is immense. And I would say everybody should have mentees, whether or not it's going to, you know, वो लोग तुम्हारे साथ रहने वाले क्या, उनका कुछ फायदा होगा क्या, वो फायदा हो ना हो, इन द प्रोसेस ऑफ यू बीइंग अ मेंटोर आपका बहुत फायदा होगा. एंड आई एम वेरी 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 श्योर अबाउट दैट.
Like you said, this, if I pinpoint something, majorly all this comes back to relationship building.
I agree.
Like you said, you need to have mentees, not just a mentor. Because when you
Hmm.
teach, you understand a lot of things.
Absolutely.
And now you can see through your mentor's eyes as to what he was
Absolutely.
doing.
Bang on. Bang on.
Right? So now let's say you have a lot of mentees. Right? You have a team of 4 or 5, sometimes 10, sometimes 15.
Mhm.
Sometimes we tend to ignore some of those because you can't really give time to all of them.
Sure.
So I'm trying to understand that if I had to pinpoint, like because of the ignorance or because of whatever happens in an organization, if you had to, Mr. Ram, pinpoint just one specific mistake or that
Mhm.
young sales professionals made
Mhm.
when they're starting in today's times, what
Mhm.
what would you pinpoint?
No, I think you asked me two questions. One is, what if somebody gets ignored, and what is one common sales
Yeah.
mistake? I'll first answer the first one. See, as you grow, uh, deeper in your career, you go higher up. The only way that you can ensure a team member is never ignored is when you have usual conversations with them, and you give them this access that I am always accessible to you. All right. You give them the comfort that whenever you need anything, all you have to do is just send me a WhatsApp anytime in the night. I will respond whenever I can. Or you just give me a call, and I'm already there for you. So the giving the access is a major thing, and I'm yet to learn. I haven't been in a place where I manage 200 people, 300 people. While I hope that it does happen someday, so I can't foresee and then come back and give you a small tip right now. But as of now, what I'm doing with a team of, I've got a sales team, I've got a consulting team, and we've also got a new product line that we're developing. And So we've got 30, 40 odd people over there as well. So
Nice.
all put together, I think so there would be roughly around 50 to 60 individuals who want to come and talk to me, who want to hear from me, who want to have some kind of a course correction. And what I try and do is give them the access. Almost all of them have my numbers, and I let them know that I am accessible to you, come what may. So, and because I mean, for me, so there are so many, and all of them are equally important. And for them, probably I'm the only one. And what I have to ensure is I give them the access. So that's one. Speaking about your second question about what do new salespeople commonly ignore, or was that the question, or
Yeah, I mean, one mistake.
mistake? Yes, yes.
Yes.
Well, mistake is early on in the career. I understand. I totally understand how important money is to you, because you've got your
Very good
girlfriends and
point.
boyfriends, and you want to show that you want to show a lot to your parents. There is so much you want to prove to your parents that देखा मैं ये हो गया हूँ, मैं ये कर सकता हूँ. I can do this. I can buy stuff for you. It's not only you who who can buy stuff for me. Even I can do it for you.
Yeah.
So we live in an era where you are under so much
Pressure.
pressure that I mean, if I ask you where are you going to take your next vacation, you're going to be under stress for the next 5 minutes. कि कहाँ जाऊं यार, मतलब international करना है नहीं करना है, so do I have that much money, and so on and so forth. So we live in a world of instant gratification where everything that we scroll on Instagram, on LinkedIn, everybody is successful. On
Yeah.
Instagram, everybody is happy. So early on in their careers, uh, everybody wants to have this 50, 60,000 salary. कि मैं एक बाइक तो ले लूंगा पहले, and then or I'll buy a second hand car, and I'll buy this. I want to dine at this rooftop restaurant, so that is going to cost me 10,000. All these things are there, and they impact the kind of mistakes that they do at work. So one primary mistake is they focus on the salary and not on the learning. Anybody who comes and tells me that I've done this graduation course from this college, I've done this master's course from this college, or this MBA course from this college, fine, I'm happy for you, but it's all very theoretical. The way every industry works is different. The way every company works is different. Eventually you're in this web of tech, relationship, egos, clients, their egos, world geopolitics, currency fluctuations, and we are not ready for all that. And how do you prime yourself for that is by focusing on the learnings first. And so I tell them the company is paying you salary for you to learn.
Yeah.
If you see this industry as a long haul, if you want to stay invested in this industry, because eventually, what if you look at it from a macro perspective, you've got different industries that have got short bursts of growth. Like in the year
Mm-hmm.
2020, all the pharmacists were jumping jobs because
Yeah.
during the pandemic, the pharmaceutical stock prices were up, and all the
Extreme.
parents are like, "Tu hai na, BSc pharmacy kar le," When I was in my 10th, it was IT kar le, ye kar le, wo kar le, and बीच में ऐसा हुआ था civil कर ले. And so that's precisely why I say prescriptions don't work, because what has worked for you won't work for somebody else.
Actually.
And
Yeah.
by the time they get done with the course, they realize that, oh shit, recession आ गया, अब तो यहाँ पे job ही नहीं मिलना है.
Hey, nee.
How I wish I had done something that I had liked. मेरे को तो arts literature करना था, and so on and so forth. So mistake number one is to look at the salary. And yes, I'm sure salary is a very important thing. Go and speak to your company about when is it that you can make that much amount, and what is it that will take from you for the company to be able to give you that
Pay you
amount.
that much. Yes.
Okay, so that is a question that all professionals need to ask their bosses, their companies. Let's say you are at 10,000 or 20,000 today, and you want to have a salary of 50,000. Go and tell your boss, what is it, if I'm able to deliver, will you pay me 50,000? And then
Yeah.
work towards that. Okay. And if that is happening continually, and if you observe most people who've grown meteorically in their careers, this is what they've done. They've given more value than what they get paid, and slowly the company gives them that price.
Yeah.
So yeah. uh, so the mistake is, do not focus only on the salary, because there could be some industries where the starting salaries are good, but later on the growth is only, let's say, 7%, yeah, 10%,
Yeah,
12% max, and then you get stagnant there. And so yeah, focus on who you work with, focus on a good product that you will be happy to sell.
actually.
Because I still remember, I was working for this company called Promas. I think is the only name that you skipped in the intro. So it was a nice small company, and they had this fantastic product called a jet mill. You know, and a jet mill is I mean, so there are very few people that were making it in India, and I got so kicked about the product that I bought books on it. I watched a lot of webinars on it. And the whole process of me going through it, doing the research, going meeting manufacturing excellence team of various pharma companies, R&D teams of pharma companies was an exhilarating experience by its own. Did I generate sales? Yes, I did. But more importantly, the kind of human being I became because of that one product is phenomenal. I absolutely love the product because most of the customer didn't know how it worked, right? And I used to be like, let me explain this to you. And they used to fall in love with the explanation and like, this is phenomenal. Wow, so this is so amazing, you know.
Mhm.
So try and work for a company who's got good quality products, or it is a product that you want to learn about, you will fall in love with, and money will come to you, boss. So this is a genuine thing that I want to tell to a lot of youngsters. Don't focus on the money. Money is a byproduct. Money will come. Just stay the course on learning, and yeah, money will come.
Because, like you said, a lot of youngsters will just get into it because let's say if you've just done normal graduation,
Mhm.
if in India, if you're a commerce graduate, it's a little difficult to get by around a 40,000 rupees package.
Mhm, mhm, mhm,
But I think sales industries and these industries are one of them which will actually pay you.
mhm.
Sales and these graduates are like, yeah, I'm just going to grab this opportunity. But they
Mhm.
don't understand the fact that if a company is paying a graduate 40,000 bucks to sell something, they'll expect so much more of you rather than just doing the bare minimum.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Right? So they don't understand actually how it works because 40,000 a month is not a small amount. A company
Yeah,
is
yeah,
spending so
yeah.
much, they'll expect so much. Right?
Right.
So a second last question just on this, and then we can just go about it.
Sure.
Finally, like these salespeople, they have these future goals. I'll buy this big car because I have so
Mm.
much money. I'll buy this big bike, big house, etc. Um, what are your future goals or your future goals, Mr. Santosh?
See, all this book reading and all this knowledge gaining process has made one thing extremely clear to me. In a career of about 12 years, there have been goals that I've hit, there have been goals that I've missed, and I am beginning to realize more than ever that what I actually need is a system, and it's a system of continual improvement. Because with goals, what happens is, I had a goal to buy a car, I bought the car, now what? Right? I had a goal to become a sales head, I've become a sales head, now what? Now, so the job is to keep being the best sales head that's possible,
Mhm.
and that can't be a goal, because you can't say I want to be the best. Best is not a goal, right?
Yeah.
But when you say you want to design a system around being the best version of you, am I better than what I was a month ago? When somebody lost a deal, did I handle it well? When I lost a deal, did I handle it better than I handled it last time? Is a metric that I am benchmarking myself against. And I see how people are looking up to me or looking down upon me, however it is. And I have these mental notes. This is what happened last time. Is it getting any better? And when I am designing these systems for myself, I think over, because if you ask me, where do you see yourself in 10 years from now? Whoever is answering that question absolutely has got no idea where they're going to be in 10 years. Because I don't know what new technologies are going to come in the next 10 years.
Actually,
So, I mean, 3 years ago, if you would ask me, where do you
said,
see
oh
yourself?
yes,
I would have been like, I am, traveling to more clients, meeting more. I wouldn't have answered. I am going to be doing a lot of video conferencing. I am going to
exactly.
be doing a lot of Zoom calls. I had no idea, right?
Nobody else.
So nobody knows the pace of the technology changes are so fast that you cannot know what you're going to do in the next 5 years. I don't know if your existing designations are going to be valid after 5 years. you know. So there are many existing jobs. I don't know if Zomato drivers are going to exist in the next 5 years, or it could be
Yeah.
drone delivery, so on
Drones,
and so
yeah.
forth.
You've
So
heard.
there are so many things that, and the only thing you can do to safeguard yourself against this volatile, uncertain, complex, ambiguous environment, it's called VUCA in management terms, is by building systems for yourself and systems of betterment. And you got to have different categories for yourself, not only at work, for your personal lives as well. I would want to focus on your relationships with your parents, with your friends, with your near relatives, because eventually, why are we doing all this for? We're doing so that we can have a good time with our close ones. So I mean, what is the point of earning a lot if I'm not having my friends around to celebrate? What is the point of buying
The
you
big
know
car.
a
Yeah.
big car if I can't go out on a camping trip with my friends?
Exactly.
So don't lose sight of what you want to eventually do.
Eventually.
So one of the things you also mentioned was a 40,000 salary comes with a particular amount of stress. So my wife, she works in the food industry, so she's working with a Norway based food safety auditing company, and she does a phenomenal job. But I've been watching her doing all these virtual audits, कि यहाँ कैमरा ले जाओ, वहाँ कैमरा ले जाओ, ये क्या रखा, ये कौन सा वाल्व है, and so on. So she's a food safety inspector there.
Mhm.
And I used to tell her, I think you will do excellent at business development for a food company, or you'll do exceptionally well at sales. And so let's both help each other. And she said, I'm out because I don't want to deal with the stress. That's very clear. And I was amazed that she was super duper clear about what she doesn't want to take up. And she said, I know because of this, my earning potential is going to be this much, but that is what I'm trading off for not having that
Yeah.
stress. And so that was it. And it's better if wives have the last word. So, so yes, I mean, my goals and plans, honestly, I am in the process of building a system of continual improvement, because I really don't know what to expect from myself in the next 5 years or 10 years. I don't know what to expect from the world. I don't know what to expect from the industry, but I can expect myself to be better at everything that I do.
I think that is just the best answer I could have possibly gotten from you, Mr. Ram. So, thank you so much for your time. First of all, it was a great interview. It was lovely talk. This did not rather feel like I'm asking you. This was like a conversation two salespeople were having with each other.
Right, right,
And I
right.
just feel like you could also be one of my mentors because you have so
Sure.
much to teach and you're such a great person who likes to talk about their experiences so that other people can. So thank you so much, Mr. Ram. I'm sure our audience had a great time.
It's a
Right?
pleasure.
But that's all. That's all for today.
Okay.
And yeah, we'll see you next time.
Great.
And I
Thanks a
hope we
lot for
can.
having me.
No,
And
no.
thank you, Ed
It's,
CRM team.
it's all our pleasure. Yeah.
All
I
right.
hope we can meet very soon. Chalo. Bye bye.
Surely. Bye bye.
Have a good time.
You too.